Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to Hidden Korea. Today, we invite you to dive into a truly extraordinary story, one that has touched an entire nation. Koreans cry with happiness. Hyun, son Ye Jin's family and baby Alkong spread miracles. What happened behind this moment of pure emotion? Stay with us, because we're about to uncover every heart-stirring detail, starting right now. Koreans cry with happiness. Hyun, son Ye Jin's family and baby Alkong spread miracles. The moment the first blurred photograph leaked online, everything in Korea seemed to pause. A quiet street in Seoul. A thin veil of morning fog. And in the center of it, Hyun, son Ye Jin, and little Alkong wrapped in a soft winter coat. It should have been an ordinary family outing. Something simple and fleeting. Yet the atmosphere crackled with an emotion so intense that even those who witnessed it from afar felt a tremor run through their chest. Something had happened, something no one expected, and within minutes, social media exploded in a tidal wave of disbelief, joy, and pure emotion. People were crying without understanding why. Drawn into a mystery that grew heavier by the second. Rumors had been circulating for days, whispers of a private visit to a children's hospital, of a quiet act of kindness hidden from cameras, of an encounter that changed the course of their day. No one knew what part was real, but everyone could sense a truth pulsing behind the scenes. The couple had always been known for their privacy, yet this time, Korea felt an undeniable pull, as if something miraculous was unfolding in slow motion. And then, eyewitnesses began to speak. A nurse claimed she saw them comforting a child who had been unable to smile for months. Another staff member said baby Alkong reached out with tiny hands, and the child, against all odds, responded with the faintest, trembling grin. It was small, fragile, but powerful, enough to make seasoned doctors choke on their words. After that moment, everything spiraled into a kind of emotional chaos. The couple's car had barely moved 10 meters from the hospital when a crowd began forming. Not fans, not paparazzi, regular citizens who had heard the story through calls, texts, and whispers. They didn't scream or shove cameras in the couple's faces. Instead, they stood still, silent. Some with trembling lips, others covering their mouths as if holding back tears. Hyun stepped forward first, shielding son Ye Jin and Alkong instinctively. But when he saw the faces before him, strangers, overwhelmed not by fame but by gratitude, his posture softened. The tension in the air throbbed like a heartbeat, unspoken yet deafening. And then, something no one expected happened. A father walked forward, holding the hand of a girl so pale she seemed carved from moonlight. She bowed weakly, her voice almost lost in the winter wind as she whispered her thanks. It was her, the child who smiled for the first time because of baby Alkong. As soon as the realization hit, gasps rippled through the crowd like lightning. Son Ye Jin pressed a hand to her heart, eyes trembling with disbelief as the little girl lifted her gaze to meet hers. A single tear rolling down her fragile cheek. That single tear became the spark that ignited a wave of emotion across the entire street. Within hours, Korean broadcast stations interrupted regular programming, with emergency segments titled Miracle on the Streets of Seoul, replaying shaky footage captured by passers-by. Experts on child psychology attempted to explain the phenomenon, struggling to understand how a brief encounter with a baby could trigger such a profound reaction. But viewers didn't need explanations. They felt it. This wasn't celebrity gossip, it wasn't PR. It wasn't carefully staged kindness. It was raw, genuine, and painfully beautiful. Something that rarely happens in a world hardened by cynicism and exhaustion. Meanwhile, inside their home, Hyun and son Ye Jin sat in silence, still processing the day's events. Baby Alkong, unaware of the emotional storm he had caused, drifted into sleep, tiny fingers wrapped around his mother's hand. Couple exchanged a glance filled with awe and confusion, an unspoken question hanging between them. Why had this affected so many people? Why did the nation respond with such overwhelming emotion? And why did it feel as though their family had been chosen, somehow, to carry a moment of hope when Korea needed it the most? As night fell, messages poured in from across the country. Parents of sick children, elderly citizens, young fans, workers, they all said the same thing. Watching that moment gave them strength. It reminded them that small miracles still exist. That innocence can still break through darkness. That hope can appear unexpectedly in the form of a tiny child named Alkong. And as the couple read message after message, thing inside them shifted. They realized the truth. This wasn't a coincidence. It was the beginning of something bigger. Something neither of them could yet understand. But they would soon. Because the next morning, Korea would wake up to revelation even more shocking than the miracle itself. By dawn, a strange quietness hovered over Seoul, an eerie calm before a wave of emotion no one anticipated. News anchors spoke in trembling voices. Journalists debated endlessly. And yet the real storm was brewing outside the couple's home. People weren't gathering to scream or take pictures, they were gathering simply to stand there, united by a shared emotion they could not fully articulate. Some brought flowers. Others held handwritten notes for the family they had never met but suddenly felt deeply connected to. And as the sun climbed higher, one truth became undeniable: Korea wasn't just touched, it was transformed. Inside, Hyun barely slept. By the window, watching the gathering crowd grow with every passing hour. There was no chaos, no frenzy, only a collective hush of gratitude. The entire nation was whispering the same silent prayer. Ye Jin approached him quietly, her face pale from exhaustion yet glowing with a softness that only deepened the surreal atmosphere. She held baby Alkong gently, blinked sleepily, unaware that millions of hearts outside now beat in sync with his tiny presence. Came the knock. Slow, heavy, intentional. Hyun opened the door. A delegation from the hospital stood before him, doctors, psychologists, and administrators. Their expressions held something urgent, almost desperate. The lead doctor spoke with a voice that wavered between awe and fear. The little girl who smiled yesterday? She hadn't smiled in nearly 2 years. Her condition had left her emotionally shut down. Unresponsive to therapy. Unresponsive to her parents. Unresponsive to the world. Yet one glance at Alkong shattered a barrier no medical intervention had been able to penetrate. The doctors insisted it was more than coincidence. In a fleeting emotional moment, they needed to understand what had occurred. Hyun listened. A cold shiver crawled down his spine, not out of fear for his child, but at the realization that this day was spiraling into something far larger than he had ever imagined. Son Ye Jin held Alkong closer. For the first time, the enormity of the situation felt almost overwhelming. The doctors asked whether the family would consider returning to the hospital for further observation, not for publicity, not for media benefit, for the sake of other children who might respond the same way. But before they could decide, another unexpected twist hit them with the force of a tidal wave. Breaking news banners flashed across national networks. A security guard from the hospital had leaked unseen footage from the previous day. Video capturing the exact moment Alkong reached out to the silent child. The clip spread like wildfire. Not because it was dramatic, but because of what it captured: the girl's eyes widening at the sight of the baby. Her lips trembling. Her fingers lifting slowly, as if awakening from a long, silent dream. When she smiled, the entire ward reacted instantly. Nurses crying. Parents gasping. Even the guard himself fell into stunned silence. Footage was simple, grainy, unfiltered, yet it detonated across Korea with an emotional force that no producer could have manufactured. And then came the worldwide reaction. Japan, China, Brazil, the US. International communities began sharing the clip, calling it the miracle of Seoul. Psychologists requested permission to analyze the footage. News stations replayed it in loops. Comment sections filled with tens of thousands of messages from people saying they cried without knowing why. Something about that moment pierced through cynicism, politics, and exhaustion. For the first time in a long time, people felt united by hope rather than fear. But with the miracle came pressure. Reporters camped outside their home. Producers begged for statements. Agencies demanded exclusive rights to the story. Managers warned of escalating media chaos. Yet through it all, the couple remained silent, overwhelmed by the weight of what the nation now expected of them. They had not meant to become symbols. They had not asked to spark a collective emotional awakening. They had simply lived their lives as a small family trying to protect their child. Still, the moment that truly broke the country didn't come from them, it came from the little girl herself. Later that evening, mother appeared on live television, voice cracking as he revealed something no one had known. After the miracle smile, his daughter whispered a word, her first in nearly 2 years. A soft, fragile word that he replayed in his mind over and over again. Warm. Not baby, not pretty. Hello, just warm. That single word was enough to make even hardened broadcasters wipe their eyes on screen. Back in their home, Sun Ye Jin covered her mouth, trembling. Hyun Bin lowered his head, shoulders collapsing under the gravity of emotion. Baby Alkong slept peacefully between them, the innocent center of a storm of hope. And as the world watched with breathless anticipation, the couple exchanged a glance, quiet, steady, resolute. They finally understood what was unfolding. This was no longer just a family moment. This was a turning point, a healing spark for a weary nation. Somewhere in the distance, as night washed over Seoul, church bells rang, temple lights flickered to life, and strangers embraced on the sidewalks, shedding tears they didn't know they had been holding. It didn't matter how the miracle happened. It didn't matter whether science could explain it or not. What mattered was simple. For the first time in a very long time, Korea felt alive with hope. Bound together by a single tiny heartbeat, one belonging to baby Alkong. In the end, the miracle of Hyun Bin, Sun Ye Jin, and baby Alkong was never about fame, lines, or spectacle. It was about the rare moment when humanity paused long enough to feel something pure again. A single smile, a single heartbeat, and a single child reminded an entire nation that hope still exists, even in the quietest corners of life. As Korea wiped its tears, one truth remained unshaken: sometimes the smallest miracles come from the smallest hands. Thank you, dear viewers, for joining us on this emotional journey. Thank you for watching, for feeling, and for believing with us. This is Hidden Korea, and we appreciate every moment you share with us. See you in the next story, where another unexpected truth awaits.